Welcome on back, faithful. It is tutorial time yet again. Today we're going to be knocking out the SMG from Halo 3. I was trying to have this done Friday, Saturday, but work got a bit away from me, so Sunday it is. Another little view on it there. That's the left side of it here. There we go. Okay, so for any of you who have gone ahead and cut out the template that I put inside the previous video that was in the Dropbox link, you should have all your pieces set up for this entire build. So what the whole gun will look like when you've printed it out is like this here. So just a quick couple little notes on what all pieces you will be cutting out, what you'll be saving. You're going to cut one full-length gun blank here out of EVA foam. We are using 3/8 inch thick EVA foam. This is the hex pattern. This is going to be your actual surface level detail pattern, or excuse me, a side that you're going to be working with. So you'll cut one full size one. Obviously leave the barrel off. That's just there for reference. And then this is kind of the more critical part of it, is you're going to end up cutting two more. So you've got one full one, do one more on that same side, flip it over, cut one more blank there. Only what you can go ahead and do here is you can just cut two of these back pieces here separately. For the right side of this here, you're going to only cut this blank right there. You're just going to cut the handle portion up to here. Leave that middle section out because you can see here there's some depth. We're going to incorporate another piece of 1/4 inch foam here versus the 3/8 inch. Now for the left side of it, the left side blank, you're going to go ahead and leave that entire back section, which would be fitting right here, right there. So leave that whole back section right there because that is going to need to be our base for where the magazine is going to sit on the actual gun itself. Otherwise, it's going to have this weird little gap below it, and it's not going to look real good. So just bear that all in mind. Two of these separate, with just one full blank overall, then flip, flip. And the instructions should, if it's not detailed in the instructions, then just refer to the video. Okay. So I've done one side on this gun already. Again, this is the finished product that we're going for here. I've done one side of this already for you here. So you can see how we're going to end up putting this whole thing together here. We've got everything from push pins to little, like paper brads. We've got multiple levels and thicknesses of EVA foam. We're working with, for surface detail, these are little 16th inch foamy sheets here. We're working a lot with those. We're going to be using 1/4 inch thick foamy sheets as well. See the thickness there. And then this is an 1/8 inch thick. So you're going to have varying degrees of thickness throughout this whole build. And that's just that you get unique detail overall. You've got some really cool little peaks and valleys. You're going to have really cool shadows. And then when you go back through here and this is all painted one uniform color, you'll start to see those varying levels of detail really, really pop. And then if you go back through with some chrome, when you actually dust some of the edges, it's going to look just awesome with all the different angles and all the different edges that'll get hit. So bear that in mind. Okay. So looking right here, the main thing on this side of the gun here to be keep in mind is this little section here. You obviously want strength in the gun overall. This little section here can potentially cause some weakness, so that's why we have this one connected here, in addition to it being where the magazine is going to sit. So more or less, we're going to go ahead and mimic this entire side on the reverse of this here. So first off, you'll notice that around the edge of this gun, I've done what I call edge cuts here. And that's just to give add some depth to the gun, add some roundness to it. I've also gone back through and you can take yourself a piece of 150 grit sandpaper and you can run along the edge here. And if you hit it with the heat gun, it kind of blurs in any little imperfections, any little areas where it got roughed up. And that again is just to add shape to it, give it a bit of roundness and depth. So say you don't want to go ahead and do that. What you can do is we're going to do an edge cut here. And I've done this in a number of different videos before, but I'll go ahead and show you what the edge cut will look like. You can see it's done all around this entire shape here. We're going to be doing some of that onto this shape is right here as well. Okay, so since I've already done it around this entire shape here, which is what we're going to work with first, I'll go ahead and demonstrate for you on this piece here. So an edge cut is largely where you go in just from the edge, like it's implied, but you're taking away at an angle some of the foam that's left there. So you're left with this kind of cool beveled edge. So what you do is you take your surface side, put it face down, and then normally I'd go right to the corner here. I'd go like right up to the very tippy top. Instead for this one here, we're going to go halfway into the shape. So imagine that you're kind of doing about a 45-degree angle. Run it through once just to get it started. Or if your blade is sharp enough, you can go straight through. And then you come back through the second time, give it a little bit more. You should feel it sticking into there. Third time, push all the way through. And there is your edge cut. Now, my blade needs to be a little bit sharper there because it's got this little chattered up edge there. But you can see the difference in that edge there. You can see how it's a bit beveled. There it is. We're just getting that little slope. So that's done around all the edges of this piece here, save for this edge right there. You don't need it done there. It's going to be sitting more like this. So all those edges are all taken care of. Okay. So first up, let's go ahead and put our little handle section on here. Now if you notice, I've cut that little window out of here. You can see it on the reverse side there. That little spot's cut out, which is perfect because we want that depth inside this shape here. I didn't do it on my other one, but this one I wanted to add a bit more detail. So for this side, since you're going to have the hex pattern showing through on this side of the gun, just cut a very small little foamy piece that will fit right inside that window right there and hide all that, I guess, inner detail. So being that we're just doing the blank sealer here, we're just going to use hot glue. We're going to put this whole thing down, seal it in, and then we'll come back through with some Loctite 5-second super glue. This is the best stuff in the world to work with EVA foam. It forms a really, really great hold, and it locks the shape in there. I swear by this stuff. You shouldn't need more than half a bottle for this entire gun. So if it helps you, take a pen and just mark off where you know the defining edges of that shape is going to be. That way you know where you can just put all your glue, and it's not, you don't have to be so careful. And you're not going to do the whole thing all at once. You're just going to kind of go by section on this. And it's okay that the outside edges of this whole thing aren't really, really super uniform. It's going to look like a weird sandwich. But the beauty of it is going to be that we're going to come back through here and we're going to end up capping the entire thing. So it'll look really, really sleek and cool by the end of this. For those of you who don't know, my name is Angelegend, aka Eric Rollon. We've been on hiatus for a bit, but we are getting back into the groove of things. It is good to be back in the saddle creating again. I hope to have a ton more videos up for you guys that you can follow along with in your Halo cosplay and video cosplay endeavors. For those of you building along with me right now, or those of you who want to do this build, go ahead and check the link below this video, and you'll find a Dropbox link, and that will have this SMG file in PDF form, so you can cut all the pieces out once you get it printed onto just standard paper, and you can get all your foam pieces cut out, and you can follow along. That one is of my own design, so if you guys would be so kind as to give credit where credit is due, if you end up sharing it on any forums or whatnot, I don't have any problem with you guys sharing it whatsoever. Just, you know, let them know that Angelegend made it up. Appreciate it. Okay, so this whole shape is now come together. Whole thing is glued down there. We're going to go ahead and do this window here and start adding all these surface level details. You can see on this one here that I've put those details in there. A little bit of a closer look there for you. So we're going to do the same exact thing on this. Now what I did beforehand is I went ahead and traced all my shapes onto here. I just used a ballpoint pen to do so. That way when you come back through, you can be a little bit more exact with where it's going to be going down. So we're going to go ahead and use our Loctite 5-second super glue. This stuff, again, is awesome. Treat yourself. I think it's about $5 a bottle. Well worth it. So since I know where it's going to be going inside here, I'm just going to dot throughout. You don't need a whole lot of this glue. A little bit goes a long, long, long way. Do the entire outline first, and then dot the middle. You don't have to be quite so exact with all your edges inside this build. It's not like building armor. The gum will have a lot more character if you do have some, I guess, rougher edges. Place that down. Once that's on there, it is not going anywhere. First piece down. We're going to do the rest of these here, and then move on to the front. Now if you'll see, I'm leaving gaps in between these shapes here. That way it adds some really, really cool planar features, and it'll give you some pretty neat shadows when you actually go back through and paint this whole thing. Now these pieces here that I just attached, those are all 1/8" thick pieces. We're now going to go back through with a little piece of 1/16 inch, and we're going to slide it inside this little window here. Sorry, a little window right there, to add some of that varying depth we were talking about. So again, if you need to, take your ballpoint pen and just mark off the area that you know it's going to be in. Just like that. Do a little window too if you want. And have a piece of paper sitting next to you that you can get your pen started again. For whatever reason, foam likes to make the pen stop working. Don't use Sharpies because it will suck the ink clear out of your Sharpie. Just stick with a ballpoint pen. Next up, we're going to do this little window here. It's going to fit nice and snug in there. Just like that. Okay, now I'm sure you guys saw on the back of this shape here, we've got all these little, I guess, thumbtacks. We've got these little paper connector brads here. They're the kind that open up like this, but they work really well for texture. So they look a little odd right now, but once this whole thing is painted, this gun's going to have a really cool textured look for the grip, or excuse me, the stock, and then the two front grips. So easiest way to go ahead and apply these, you can see on the PDF file that I made, they're sort of plotted out. It'll end up varying probably when you guys go to do it. I know I did two sides differently on the first gun that I made just to see how they were going to look. And one side's pretty different than the other. Doesn't really matter how you want to arrange them. Just, if you want that extra detail there, that's the way I arranged them right there. Get a better look right here. So, best way to do it is just mark them off with your ballpoint pen. We're going to punch little punch little holes And then we're going to go back through, dot them each with a little bit of super glue, and then just press our push pins right into them. So again, they will be marked out on the PDF file, but however you want to do it, entirely up to you. Just like this. All right. Now we're just going to dot these holes each with a little bit of super glue. Do it about 4 or 5 at a time. And then take your little thumbtack, press it right in. Just give it a good push so it makes contact. And that Loctite will hold these all into place really easily. You're not going to have to worry about these things coming out. Plus, we're going to cover the whole shape in Plasti-Dip spray-on rubber, which will lock the rest of the shape in after this build is done. For anybody wondering what music I'm listening to, this is Chilled Cow. It's a lo-fi hip-hop radio station that always has a live video stream going with just music all day. It is awesome to build to and great to study to. Chilled Cow on YouTube. Just a little bit. And there you have it. That's how we add our surface detail with the thumbtacks here. I'm going to finish up the rest of these little pieces here, and we'll move on. These are the tinier little paper brads that I was talking about. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and attach this whole section here. Before you go ahead and do that, though, you're going to want to figure out what you're going to use for a barrel. Now, this is the barrel that I've created here. It's actually from an old paint tube. See those right there? You've all probably seen these before. I covered it in foam. I went ahead and dimpled it so you can see a little bit of extra texture there for the barrel on the SMG. And then I went into the first full blank that you're going to cut here. I measured where that barrel was going to end up sitting, and I went ahead and cut that little area out. On this piece, however, the other side there, I went ahead and cut, you can see a little step inside there. I cut a tiny little step and just pulled that little, about halfway through it, and pulled that little piece out. That way, it's got an area where the cap on this can fit into, and it can kind of flex around it. You don't have to use a paint tube. You can use a sour powder tube from like a little confectionery, a little candy store. You could use PVC, whatever you feel like using. Just something for your barrel. When it's attached inside here, you'll see it'll push into the foam. You probably can't see it too well on the front there. But this edge here will expand out just a little bit. So, just like that. So we'll go ahead and put this blank down first, like this here. We're going to figure out where this little window needs to be cut out. So just looking at it, I can see right there and right there. We'll just draw it down here. Take this bad boy, see where we've marked, and then just kind of trace around it. That way you know where you're cutting. It doesn't have to be super exact because the foam can flex a little bit, so don't worry about getting it dead on. Easiest way to take this out here is get yourself a nice sharp X-Acto knife. And we're just going to cut into this shape here a little bit. So do a couple passes. There we go. Till you feel that you've gone all the way through and you're going just a little ways in, not all the way through the shape. And get up here and just rip it out. Just like that. So now we've got that little slot cut right in there. Okay, so before we even put this barrel in here, we're going to attach all the pieces first, and then we'll fit the barrel in through the front. So, as we did before with the stock portion of this gun here, we're just going to hot glue this entire thing down. It's okay if the hot glue bubbles out the edge a little bit. You can always come back through with the iron part of your glue gun and smooth it out. I am using a multi heat gun, but I've got mine set for the low heat setting. If you go high heat, it just stays viscous way too long and it doesn't dry as quickly. So low heat is the way you want to go. Here's that ironing out I was talking about. Just come back through with the tip of it, and you can smooth it in. As I said before, don't worry about how this outside edge looks, even with that glue there, because we're going to cover that all back up. Put some glue on that inside edge because you want that edge to connect to the back part of the stock here. Olive, sorry. Olive, you gotta go. You gotta go. Okay, go play. Can't be up here right now. Getting hair all over the place. Now what I like to do for this little part right there is come back through with a tiny bit more Loctite or even a little bead of hot glue and just make sure that your connection point there is solid. It helps beforehand if you cut yourself a few little triangular shaped pieces like this. I use these to smooth out the Loctite so you can really punch it into the seams. Just like that. And I mentioned in the last video that I am running out of space here at my apartment to keep all of my suits of armor and weapons and props and all that in, so we're going to be doing a giveaway with this SMG. After this video is all over, I'll have a separate video posted up for that whole thing with instructions on how to be entered for a chance to win. So keep an eye out for that. Next up, we're going to go ahead and install our barrel before we take any of our additional foam and do any coverage here. So, I'd have your seam pointed down if you decide to go this route and cover this in foam. Figure out how that's going to go inside here. Pretty much like that. So we're just going to put some glue inside there, plug this sucker in. Here we go. And you can see that the foam here has kind of widened out just a little bit to accommodate that round shape. It's helped by the fact that we cut that little window out of the inside section of the foam here. Oh, you gotta go. Come on. Come on. So even though that's in there, let's just go ahead and reinforce a little bit around the opening here. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, with the way I've done this barrel, it looks a bit more like the SMG from the ODST series. So, if that's what you're going for, then I guess use a paint tube. Okay, now before we go any further with adding any detail to the surface level of this here, we're going to go ahead and wrap the entire shape. You can see how I've done right here, all the way around. All the way around in strips of foamies, little 16th inch thick pieces of foam. I've cut them to be 3/4 of an inch in width, and I just went the length of the foamy sheet. So the foamy sheet is, I think it's about 8 inches long by about 6, maybe it's, yeah, about 8 by 6, or maybe that's 10 by 6. Just the full length of that sheet there. Again, 3/4 of an inch in width. So we'll start right here in the center. Now I've got these two little side guides already in place there. So we're going to end up using those as our initial guide. So right to the edge. If you want to, you can go over the front here and then wrap it back like that. Easiest way to put this on is with your Loctite. Did I gum it all up? I might have gummed it up. Here we go. Now, I would do this just a few inches at a time. And if you've got glue that's starting to ooze out the edge, like we've got here, use your little smoother piece, blend it right back in. Easy peasy. And we'll do that down the whole rest of the shape, all the way around the gun, till we come back to the front here. Okay, now when you get to this little section right there, we're going to make a cut at this little intersection of that little window and that planar surface there. Okay, so get your glue set first. Get that little area glued down. And then we'll just come back through with an X-Acto knife and we'll cut this little section out. Just like that. We'll resume right back here, follow around the handle. I'm sure you figured out by now, but adding these little strips all the way around it also serves to help lock in the shape and just add overall strength, almost like an exoskeleton. When you get to this part here, we're only going to go as far as the trigger stop there. We're not going to do the inside window here. I've got links in the description below. If you're looking for the larger foamy sheets, you can pick those up at Michael's or at Hobby Lobby. So you should be able to find them there. And then we are just going to continue on right from here, all the way around to the front. You will get this glue in your fingers. It is just inevitable working with Loctite. One of the best ways I find to get it off is Dawn dish soap, and then one of those sponges which has the green, harder scouring surface tends to get the glue off pretty quickly. On that home stretch. All right, so we've got the entire shape now wrapped in 1/16 inch thick foamy. Again, that's just cut 3/4 of an inch thick, or wide, all the way around here. That locks in our shape for us. As a side note, I'd encourage you guys to get yourself a diamond whetstone. I don't remember how much I paid for this. I think it was around 20 bucks for it. But you can get a whole lot more life out of your X-Acto blades and your box cutter blades by using one of these. It's just a water diamond stone, so you don't need any kind of oil to use with it. I've been using the same blade now for weeks, and when that edge dulls, I just put it right back on with a whetstone. So consider it. Save you a few bucks. Okay, now we're going to move on to this handle section here. I've marked off where a couple of the pieces are going to go, but as we put more on there, we're going to be tracing around them again, just so we know we're going to be working. These here are going to be our 16th inch thick pieces. On the PDF file that I've got inside the Dropbox, you're going to see all the different sizes and thicknesses called out for all the pieces. So if you're wondering why I haven't been saying every single thickness, it's because it's on the PDF there. Moving on to this piece. It really helps to pre-trace your pieces first because you can apply them so much quicker if you know right where they're going right from the get-go. This piece here wraps a little over the edge and just adds another level of depth to this shape. Okay, we'll go ahead and add some more little push pins over along this grip here, just to add some more depth and character to this gun. I did 3 rows on mine. All right. Again, we're just going to do a little drop inside every single one and then fill them up with our little brads. All right, next we're going to add some more surface level detail to this side of our gun here. This is going to be the front piece that it covers this section up here. Best way I can tell you to use as your roadmap for where this upper corner piece goes there is right where this little slope here has a second angle that leads into where the barrel is there. That's where the top corner of this is going to go, and it's just going straight back. Okay, next part we're going to do is the magazine. Now, I've made it a little bit longer than it needs to be. You can see the back there, how it has this bit of an overhang. If you don't want it to be that way, then what I encourage you to do is move it to where this back piece here ends, and then cut back in just a little ways into here so it can sit on top of that eighth inch thick foam. just like that. We'll go ahead and use some hot glue for this initially. If we need to come back around the edge, we can. If you want to stick with Loctite too, you can do that. Okay, next up, we're going to do all of our surface level detail that's going to go onto the magazine. So you're going to have a lot of little pieces that look like this. Best way I can say to start this is go with the front, which would be your left, and work your way back to the right. You're also going to have a piece that looks like this. This can be your base for the opposing end. You may need to trim it a little bit, but hopefully if you've cut everything to the right dimensions, they should all fit perfectly. It's helpful to also lay these little pieces out. That way you know right where they're going. And I'm going to go ahead and trim just a little bit off the top edge of all of these. We'll take about 1/8 of an inch off. Here we are. For this little section right there, it's like a little push button. I just saved the little piece that I cut out of there, and I cut a few little strips and layered it in so it looked like it had some grip. Okay, all we've really got left is just surface detail. That's going to be going onto the front grip here, this upper section there, and then this lower section through here. And then this thing is pretty much done. You may have to trim this little upper piece here on the back end, close to where the stock is, just in case it's a little bit off. I know I'm going to have to trim mine. Now, a few of these pieces are made to be stacked on top of each other, so you just get varying degrees of depth. This one is going on top of this here. Next up, I've got some tiny little 1/4 inch thick pieces. One of them you can see is right there. The other one is just going to be mirrored on the opposite side. You're going to have to cut back into it a little bit with your X-Acto knife to accommodate that little step ladder foam that we just put on there. All right. You can see here the bottom section just below the magazine has these little dashed areas there. I just cut a really, really thin strip of one of the foamy sheets and then cut it every 3/4 of an inch or so. And then we're just going to layer those right along the bottom there on this gun. And there we have that. Time for the last two little pieces of detail on this section of the gun, and then we're going to move to the trigger area and then the front grip. Time for another thumbtack. Okay, now it's time for the trigger area. I did resize the grip of the gun itself because when I first printed it off, it was so thick that your hand was really wide trying to hold on to it. However, I didn't resize the trigger itself, so you may have to trim a little bit off the back half of the trigger just so it feels comfortable, or else you can leave it as is. I have trimmed this one here, though. Just off the back. There you go. Not too bad. Okay, now just because you're going to have that hex pattern on this edge of the guard, I cut just another little piece of foamy that I'm going to slap around on top of it. All right, we're now down to the final section, the foregrip. Do this little piece here first because that'll set up how far you have to have all the other pieces spaced out to look good going down that grip. Last two push pins. Now we're just going to build the rest of these pieces down. Okay, now for this little piece here, I cut it all out as just one shape. That way I knew where everything was going to go and what attached to where. You can see I'm going to cut a tiny little section right out of there and then marry the whole thing together. Save the middle too, because that will come in handy for when you're actually trying to add that little middle section. You're just going to trim it smaller than it is. All right, here's that little piece I was talking about. Right in the middle. Okay, 2 things left to do, and then this bad boy is done. Let's add our surface detail to the grip itself. Okay, lastly, we're going to add the sights that I've put on this side of the gun to the other side. I just cut these out of 1/4 inch thick pieces of foam. One in the back, one in the front. All right, faithful, that is the construction of our Halo 3 SMG. Again, you can find the PDF file inside the description below. You'll find a Dropbox link there. Grab that up, cut your paper out, cut your pieces out, and then build along to make this here finished product. I will be doing a giveaway video very shortly for this bad boy here. I don't know if I'm going to give away both of them. I don't know, maybe. It feels so cool just holding on to these. But yes, expect to see a few more weapons coming up here very shortly. I'd like to do another gun and then a melee weapon. So I haven't decided if I want to do maybe the hammer, if I want to do a sword, if I want to just switch gears entirely and pick a different game to build a weapon off of. But at least be expecting another weapon. Maybe the assault rifle or maybe the battle rifle first. I'm not sure. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out this channel. Please smash that like button, smash that subscribe button for more awesome content like this. I will be getting these videos out as often as I possibly can. And please feel free to shoot me any questions inside the comment section below if you have just a need to know on foam building, on resin casting, on pretty much anything cosplay related. I've got some kind of general know-how about it. Thank you again so much for checking out this channel. I'm Angelegend, aka Eric Rollon. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye.